It would appear the only thing cooking in Meg's kitchen is desperation. Hi everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley. Welcome back to another video. Today we must discuss Meghan's desperate attempts to salvage her brand, this Netflix show, her public image, all of the above. It's not going great. The lead up to this show is incredibly rocky. The rollout of As Ever as a brand has been tragic as ever. The meme ability of that brand name alone should have been too high risk to use as a brand name, just saying. All anybody can do with it is say she's ridiculous as ever, lame as ever, copying as ever, all the negatives as ever. It's not a good strategy and it's blowing up in her face like usual. But in this last week, we have seen her getting more and more intense with her social media engagement, and it's more and more deranged. Take this, for example. She copied Princess Diana's outfit, the big Northwestern crew neck sweatshirt and white shorts. She copied it. Thank God she wasn't wearing bicycle shorts. I don't think anybody wants to see that. But still, she copied the outfit, and she is fully aware, there's no doubt, no question, that she's fully aware of the criticism she's received for copying her late mother-in-law. My reaction always goes straight to thinking about how Prince William must feel to have this rando lady with a social media platform with, some degree of media attention on her, copying his mother constantly and literally playing into it. She puts out pieces on purpose to try to draw parallels between herself and Princess Diana. And Prince William, who has tried to honor his mother's legacy and memory in a really noble sort of way, must be not only annoyed but hurt by this, and probably frustrated that his brother, Harold, isn't doing anything to stop it. Apart from that, it doesn't paint Meghan in a good light. It's super weird to do. Like, very, very strange to do this repeatedly. It's so creepy. It's not normal in any way, shape, or form. There is really no context in which we could categorize Meghan's behavior of copying Diana in these ways as normal. There's no world in which this is a normal thing to do. And so it's very peculiar that she would do this in the lead up to her show. My theory is similar to that which a lot of you have expressed and a lot of other commentators have expressed, that it's all done just to try to get more attention on her for this Netflix launch. Because there could be no other motive. You wouldn't want to portray this sort of weird, creepy, cringy vibe to your social media accounts. You wouldn't want to do something that's the opposite of endearing, that's just very off-putting and bizarre. So the only thing that would make sense is that she thought that it would be sensational enough and cause people to talk about it more because of the weirdness. And that's her strategy, that she's just leaning into the negative press is still press. It's not great long-term strategy, but in the short term it can and does work a lot of the time. The negative press strategy of just taking any publicity you can get, even if it's negative, no matter how cringy and terrible it may or may not be, just going for it anyway. That sort of a press strategy can indeed get more eyeballs on whatever it is that you're talking about or promoting at the time. Yes, duh. Obviously, it's working. Everybody's talking about how weird and creepy Meghan is for copying Diana's outfit. There seemed to be no other point to that Instagram post either, but to show that she was wearing the same crew neck sweatshirt that Princess Diana had. The problem with this strategy is that in the long term, it only builds more of this negative momentum for the Meg's reputation. It's only going to further the case against her when it comes to this weird, creepy, bizarre behavior when it comes to copying her late mother-in-law. It's just a bizarre dynamic. And so in the long run, this will come back to bite her. It will just continue to stack the odds against her. But in the short term, I guess that's all she really cares about. Much like most narcissists, they lack the foresight. And we've seen with Harry and Meghan, whether you want to call them narcissists or not, they clearly lack foresight. Almost everything they've done it's evident they didn't think it through past the immediate gains. The other desperate, gross, cringy Instagram moment was this montage of her awkwardly dancing in GMPs. These giant man pants are literally hiked up to her boobs. This is not an appealing silhouette on anybody. It doesn't look good on the Meg. It's the opposite of things that she needs for her proportions. As we've discussed in fashion editions previously, this outfit is just a total fail for her. It is the opposite of what she needs. So that's unfortunate, but it looks even more ridiculous when she's dancing like this. I don't even know if you could call this dancing. It's more like Urkeling, I would say. It's just bad. This was a series of behind-the-scenes clips just to bring cringe to the table, I suppose. A lot of people think that it was another attempt at kind of clapping back at the bullying claims that kind of resurfaced when Jason Knopf did an interview. And so even though he didn't directly say much about that, he did play a big role in trying to protect the staff and bring it to his higher-ups, Prince William, to let them know that there was something going on, a problem between Meghan and the staff, multiple staff members, and trying to solve it. He was just doing his job and doing what he should have done as a supervisor to those staff members. But of course, the Meg didn't like that, and so when he gave an interview, there were articles swirling reminding everybody of the role Jason Knopf played in that, and Meghan's animosity towards him is clear. And so by posting this little series of behind-the-scenes clips, she was probably attempting to show people that she does have positive relationships with the Netflix crew members, despite there being reports from some of them that she's incredibly difficult to work with. Here's the problem. There is such low probability, statistically speaking, that there would be this many people across various countries and various organizations that would come out and say that the Meg was hard to work with. The probability of that being just a coincidence, just being people who were, mad or didn't like her and wanted to get back at her, just being people who were just saying it for press, for any sort of other motive other than the truth, is extraordinarily low. Similar to other times, if you have somebody who has somebody come forth and say, hey, this person did something horrible to me, and then a bunch of other people come forth, usually that many people coming forth shows that it's likely got some truth to it. When it's just one, maybe two, maximum three separate occasions, maybe it could be considered some other sort of motives at play or some other sort of dynamic. But when there's multiple, like 5, 6, 7, in this case of Meghan, almost 20 people have come forward across many different projects, many different arenas, many different workplaces and circumstances to say that their experience was negative with Meghan. So it would be illogical to not accept it as a fact that Meghan is challenging to work with, and Meghan is not polite to people some of the time. The problem that a lot of the media and Sussex supporters get caught up in, or people who just loosely pay attention, the point that they get tripped up on is realizing and really thinking through the situation and putting themselves in that situation and understanding that no matter how toxic and unkind someone can be, that is still a choice, and they can still control themselves much of the time. And so the Meg may have been very, very kind to the Netflix staff during filming last summer. She may have been. She may well have been a total angel. At the end of the day, that doesn't mean that she wasn't rude and bullying and terrible to other people. Both things can be true at the same time. It all depends what serves her at any given moment. And it serves her very, very well to behave perfectly, impeccably with the Netflix project, because they have more power over her than almost anybody else because they are in control of her and Harry's contract and a lot of their publicity, and now in part with her business ventures, if you could call it that. And so she must behave with them, much like how she did behave at first with Harry and the royal family. At first, she behaved. At first, she played the game as best as she could. She still made mistakes. It was still awkward and cringy and weird, and she was still doing weird things, but she was being extended the benefit of the doubt. She was getting good press, and she wanted to get people on her side. So she was good and nice and behaving for a few months. And so with the Netflix show, she had a lot to lose. And so she surely was on her best behavior. That doesn't mean the other stuff isn't true. People tend to forget that. It's clear that she's desperate to come across as positive and likable, fun and personable with all these clips and these posts and in the Netflix show. But she's simply not. And because she's desperate to be viewed this way, which is how she wishes to be viewed, she's trying too hard and it comes across as contrived. It's clear that she has goals, just like she did with other interviews. I will link for you the playlist of her past interviews that we analyzed. For example, with the Cut interview, she wanted to be viewed as a victim still. And then with the, I think it was Variety interview, she wanted to be viewed in a softer light, and she really focused on her mom side and tried to portray herself as unassuming, not threatening, because Queen Elizabeth had passed in between those two interviews happening. And her feedback from the Cut interview was that she was cold, she came across as calculating, she still had that sort of mean vibe to her. The way she discussed things regarding the royals, she was still very focused on not taking any accountability, not saying anything positive, and exclusively painting herself as a victim and saying bad things about other people and threatening to say more. And so that wasn't received well. So then Queen Elizabeth passed and the Variety interview came out and she pivoted to try to portray herself differently. And it was clear her goals and it came across as contrived once again. She's a bad actor, remember. When you have a role on a show like Suits, two things can happen. Either you will be noticed by people and they will see that you're a great actor and you will be launched into a bigger and better career, or not, if you're not a great actor. She peaked on Suits. That was the best acting she could do. And it was a very small and simple role, rather bland. It wasn't very dimensional. And so there's no question here that the Meg was not a very successful actor in terms of the craft. And so that is part of the problem here. When she wants to be portrayed a certain way, she wants to be portrayed as likable and fun and all these things. It just comes across as trying too hard and contrived because it's exactly that. She's trying to portray herself a certain way and it's just not working. She also posted this vision board, which was weird. This isn't exactly what you would want to post. These sorts of things are a little bit more personal if you're somebody who's like into vision boards because it's all open to interpretation. This looked a lot more like a narcissistic, this is the image that you should be getting of me sort of a board. She had labels from her As Ever jams or something like that, which look really bland and boring, really bad. It's just not a good name and not a good, the way she wrote it, like logo. But like her logo, I guess, is the palm tree and dove thing that she stole from the village in Spain. But As Ever is what's printed on everything. So if you look at that as a logo, it just looks spindly and not great. It's not a good logo. It looks like trash. And the rest of this vision board is just a bunch of pictures of her and a bunch of stuff propping up herself, basically. So it's not really like I'm manifesting these things, but rather look at me and these things that I want to show you. And that's the main toxic thread of social media. You're only seeing what they want you to see. You're curating an image of yourself, and Meghan is doing it. It's just so transparent, and she's so disliked that it's not going to work. It's not going to be enough to turn around her image. But all this nonsense that she's been churning out with her social media that seems to be really ramping up is just desperately clawing back some degree of likes, of popularity. I think that's too far gone. That's really reaching. And just interest. It's really just trying to strum up some interest. Now, playing devil's advocate, one could say, well, maybe she's just trying to be more personable. And she really is just trying to do her best to share tidbits from her life, give people some insight, calm the rhetoric, if you could call it that, around her that she's just, bossy and mean and unkind and all these articles and stuff that have come out and this image of her that is like, hey, this is what she's really like behind the scenes. She's trying to counter that. And that's fair to some degree that somebody would want to be like, well, that's not exactly the full story or that's only one side of the story. All that is fair. The problem with the Meg is that it does come across as so contrived. And additionally, we have seen so many different versions of the Meg. She tries to introduce herself to us many different ways, time and time again, and it's always weird. It never comes across right. And that's exactly what happens when you're trying too hard and you're not just being real. It's okay, Meghan, to not be a master at everything. It's okay to not be great at social skills or not be great at business skills. It's okay to not be super creative. It's okay to be kind of stuffy or bland. I mean, I guess in a way it's okay to be pretentious. Just own it. Be honest. Don't always keep trying to portray an opposite image to the public because you think that's what's going to get you ahead and get you an edge. It's just not working. Give it a rest. I'll be back with more very, very soon. Thank you for joining me for today's video. I hope you have a happy day ahead, and I will see you next time. Bye!